basically they correlate righteousness or like being a good person with being happy. If you're righteous, you're going to be happy. And so like times on my mission when I was just naturally depressed, I mean, like, depression happens, like that's, everyone has their ups and downs, but when you're taught that if you're righteous, you're happy, now you're sad, so you're thinking, oh, I must be a sinner.
Welcome to the Smoke Up. This is a show where I hang out and smoke with a friend, and today you're my friend, Wade the Wizard. Introduce yourself real quick.
Wizard. And I'm just a regular human, but I like to pretend to be a wizard.
I like that. I like that introduction. So a little bit about me, so you know me a little bit, because I watched your videos, and so I've like looked and I've peered into your life a little bit, looked you in the eye, but you haven't done the same with me. So a little bit about me. I've been trying to, and this is a good update for the podcast too, I've been trying to save this family of cats that were living under a trailer in my park.
Well, I heard that one part where you wrote a note on a piece of cardboard and like left it there or something.
Yeah, that did happen. And eventually he laid off, and we did manage the trap of the cats. We got most of them. I think there were a couple that were just too smart for the traps. But after we got them trapped, I had them in my house, and my wife, my partner, was really like sad that the cats were in kennels, and these are like feral cats, so you let them go and they hide. Well, I felt bad for them too, and she kind of convinced me to let them out of the kennels, and then they all like scattered through the house. And over the course of the night, I thought they broke out from behind my air conditioner. And
wait, how many cats is it?
So I had seven cats in my house that I was working on getting adopted out. I think that night I had 6 running around because I was able to get one offloaded. But so they all scattered, and then the next morning, like I could not find them. I was just convinced that they had escaped, and so like I even told like the animal rescue place that I was working with to do it, like that I lost all the cats the next night. And then later that day, I'm pulling out my pull-out mattress, and like rats, they were like laying on their bellies underneath the pull-out mattress inside of a couch. And as I opened it up, they all just like cornered up, and I was able to get most of them in their kennels again, and they've been like real nice and chill since then. But one of them, a little black one, is just too good of a hider, too slippery. So he's like actually he's still running through my house. It's been 2 days, and I have not found this cat, and it's just in my house. My partner found it this morning. I like that coffee mug, but it ran off again, so she wasn't able to catch it. And so I adopted out 2 so far. So I have 5 left. 1 of them is hiding through the house, and 4 of them are in kennels. Yeah.
Oh man, that's wild. It's like and they were all just strays, huh? Wait, so my grandma on my mom's side, she was like textbook crazy cat lady, you know. She, at any given time, she had no fewer than 10 cats. And out in the backyard, they had converted a shed. It was like a small tool shed. They converted it into a cat house.
That's smart.
And then it just kept adding on these like extensions. And man, they had so many cats, and they would just keep having kittens. Like, she would have these litters of kittens, and she's just like, oh, I don't know what to do with them. I guess I'll just keep them all.
Oh no! So did they ever figure out like a fixing thing for the cats, or was it just like is it now just become a cat kingdom on this property?
Well, I don't know what they did, like, since, because my grandparents are passed away. So I don't know what they did with the cats since then, but yeah, no, she would never, like, you know, forget to fix them, and then they would just have more kittens.
Yeah.
She's like,
yeah.
Oh.
That's really funny. I wonder if they, if over time they're gonna cause a new species of cat in that area. You know, like now that they're all out there unfixed, just broken out and never got wrangled up. And that's just a little joke because I want to talk a little bit about your Kent Hovind debate. So yeah, that's the first thing I want to start with.
First of all,
there were several. Okay, so the one that you did, there were 5. Okay, so how did your relationship with Kent Hovind start? How did this see, I'm already stoned, so I'm forgetting basic words. How did this conflict start between you two?
So, man, I wonder which debate you watched.
I watched the one that you linked in the video where you have your Dr. Dino Bones and
oh, so that was the first one.
Okay. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. No, in 2022. Yeah, 2022.
Man, it's still, and I think I had a debate. I had a debate this year, just back in January. That was crazy. But man, that whole saga. So the way I think I had started. Excuse me. Let me clear my throat a little bit. Yeah, I got this at a thrift store just a couple weeks ago. But so yeah, I grew up in the Mormon church, and I left that. So back in like 2017, I started, thinking, and realized and looked into the church and realized that it's all a bunch of bullshit. So I left the church, and I had been following other like atheist content, like Cosmic Skeptic or Genetically Modified Skeptic, Rationality Rules, and some other channels that like they would make fun of Kent Hovind,
Yeah,
so that's how
the only reason I know about Kent Hovind is Behind the Bastards made fun of him, and Professor Dave Explains debated him.
Yeah, Professor Dave, man. So yeah, I would like look at some of his stuff, and then I went on to Standing for Truth, or somehow I came across this video, but it was like Donnie, little Kent Hovind sidekick, right? He made this video. This was like a couple years ago, and it was like, but it was so dramatic and theatrical. It was like, we challenge any and all atheists.
Okay.
I think they might have even did some name dropping and like Professor Dave or whatever. And we challenge you to a debate, Kent Hovind, on evolution. And I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. So I emailed him, and that's how we got in touch. I was like one of the first first ones to do it. And we ended up having 5 debates. And the last debate, so there's not going to be another debate because towards the end of the debate, he cut me off. Like he essentially blocked me. I was getting all up on his, I was making him all flustered and stuff. And so he like canceled me. And yeah, Atheist Junior is another channel, but he actually captured this moment and it got a whole bunch of views. It's just funny how it was like Donnie booted him for, but I'm not even like saying anything bad. I'm just like asking difficult questions.
Yeah, I really wish I noticed that you had actually like debated him when so when I first came across your channel, the video that I first saw was your wedding ceremony with Jade. And yeah. I saw that and I thought it was fucking hilarious, and I thought it was also like very wholesome at the same time. I was like, this is like the kind of shit that I sub to. And it wasn't until like retreading it again today to like watch some videos for this interview that I noticed that you had that video, and I clicked on it and I was like, holy shit, he's actually debated Kent Hovind. Yeah. And for the audience, Kent Hovind's a pretty famous anti-science creationist. Like he's he's one of like the really big ones who go on debate circuits, and like your channel doesn't really have much traces of that. Your channel is very wholesome. I didn't expect you to get into like actual like cutthroat debates with creationists, you know.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, so my channel, it's not really like, it's just whatever creative outlet I'm feeling at the time. So it is a pretty wide range of like, I'll work on a project, or then but recently I did this tier list of like arguments against God, this like atheist video, and it just in a couple, like 24 hours, got a whole bunch of views, like 600 views, which is unusual for my channel because like I only have 300 something subscribers. Mm-hmm. And that was just interesting. But then like a couple weeks later, I did a video on like creating WIZARDOLOGY, my new religion, and it got like 20 views. And so like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting thing that happens with a lot of YouTube channels where the videos that blow up are ones that work well as commercial products, and the ones that don't are like the you know, personal projects and like more artistic ventures don't tend to like get as much attention as like something like a atheist tier list is like a YouTube product, you know. And
yeah.
So are you an atheist? Are you comfortable talking about faith for a little bit?
Yeah, we can talk. There's really nothing that you can't ask me. Like I'll answer anything. But yeah, so yeah, like I was kind of talked a little bit about back in 2017, I left the Mormon church, and so actually, I mean, I might as well plug this. When I first left, every Sunday I released, it was like a blog, so a weekly blog, and I called it Sacrilegious Sabbath. And we talked about God and faith and circumcision and basically everything that's like related to religion. There's like 50 plus articles.
Oh, okay.
If you just search Sacrilegious Sabbath and Wade Robbins, it'll pop up.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. So, do you think all deism like is invalid, like equally, like every religion, or what do you think? What's the tier list on religion's fallibility?
Yeah. Actually, I wonder, maybe I can give you a little sneak peek. So I'm actually preparing, this is pretty relevant, but like my first Wizardology episode, like church service. So yeah, I guess also to plug, Wizardology is every second Sunday of the month on the Wizard Show, and we do a live show at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But the first episode, which, just last month, was talking about like kind of what Wizardology is. Oh, and I'm just like a little. This is, oh my gosh, it's so washed out, but.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, it's really washed out. I need to figure out how to make it not so washed out, but that's like the logo. Anyway, this month, so next Sunday, whatever day that is, let me. 8th, yeah.
Yeah, the 8th.
September 8th. We're going to be talking about like faith and belief and gods and how they're all pretty much equally don't exist. I'm honestly, I feel like I'm much more of a strong atheist, but I see some atheist channels where they'll talk about like the nitty gritty of, or they'll talk about like morals, if morals come from God, they just, it's like an agnostic, I don't know if God exists, because, we also can't disprove that a teacup is flying around the sun.
Right.
We can't disprove it, but anyway.
No, I'm totally sympathetic to that idea. So yeah, so you're probably, I think you're, so I'm like a materialist atheist, I'm a socialist. So like I'm like pretty like outside of like what's like considered the cultural mainstream in this country. And honestly, I think you're the first guest that is explicitly atheist on the show, and it explicitly talks about faith. And it's one of my favorite things to talk about, because personally, like, I'm also like a big history buff, like not buff, like I don't know much, but I'm like, I like it. So like one big thing that, because I wasn't raised like religious, so I was never, I was probably more like what would be considered agnostic. But what pushed me towards atheism was learning a little bit about like ancient religion, and how like especially like pre-Christianity religions in like the Fertile Crescent were all like literally city-states that had a single god that they worshipped. And they would go into each other's cities and fight each other and steal each other's statues of their gods as sort of like as like an insult. And it was a very regional thing. And one of those gods was Yahweh, was the Hebrew god. And one of the, because it was one of the countries. Israel was like a prehistoric like Fertile Crescent like culture that yeah, I'm sort of rambling, but yeah. So like I just the idea, and there's also like Norse gods and like all that stuff. Like the fact that all of them are very regional and like created for very specific like utility purposes seems pretty obvious when you look at it from like a bird's eye view. So like it doesn't really seem like much of a question for me. And yeah, like when people try to like sort of split hairs on like oh, well, you can't prove that something doesn't exist it is frustrating because you can, like you said, you can transpose that argument onto a teacup. And in the modern day, in like pre-modern history, a lot of like violence is caused explicitly by like religious fanaticists, and a lot of like violence in the home in America is caused by some of the most religiously extreme people. So it's just sort of like kind of something that I feel like is just something people need to grow out of as a people. What are your thoughts on everything I just said there?
Yeah, so I think my next Wizardology church service is going to be pretty interesting. I wanted to see if I could share my screen. Oh, look at this. Let's see how this works.
Yeah, looks like it. Looks like that worked.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so this is just one of the slides that I'm talking about, but I wanted to kind of talk about, so like some atheists will just talk about the God of the Bible, Yahweh, or some will talk about a God, okay? So I expanded this, the most broadest term there at the top, that white cloud, is the idea or the claim that supernatural deities or gods exist somewhere in the universe, some other planet, I don't know. But
right,
you see there, they don't care about humans. In this case, like, I mean, there's certainly alien life. That's more statistically probable that aliens exist in this universe besides ourselves. So maybe they could be supernatural deities or gods, but they're not involved in our planet or in our life. So that's like the most broad term. But then like we kind of get narrowed down that these gods have a specific plan for humans.
Right.
And then so, yeah, if they have a plan for humans, they're either it's a complete hands-off approach. They push start on the experiment, and any involvement would be a violation of this experiment, essentially. Or intervening gods, which this is basically all the religions that people believe in.
Right.
Whoever ever believed in. But it's just weird for me. So like a couple things in my atheist tier list, I go over it in more detail, but gods have a specific plan for humans. Then I ask myself, you know, because those who understand evolution, there's a slow, in fact, I wonder, let me see if I can, I don't even know if, oh, there we go, look at that. Like with evolution, there was a smooth, slow, gradual transition from non-human to human. So like, where do you draw the line, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why do God care about humans and not, you know, they have a plan for humans, not the chimpanzee or the orangutan or that just, it doesn't make sense. Like, why? But let's see, what else? Oh, wait. Whoa. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so there's a little sneak peek.
Yeah, I like that.
Fun. Oh,
I think I'll definitely be tuning in.
Kent Hovind here. Stupid is a lack of knowledge. All right.
Yeah, that's real fun. Yeah, I feel like you know, this is a big sort of underground cultural battle that's happening in America that doesn't really get as much time of day because like a lot of like especially like big tent like political parties in the U.S., like the Democrat Party, they're trying to include as many groups of people as they can. So they're including religious groups, but I think it's pretty easy. Like it's a pretty easy like math equation looking at the amount of like evangelicals in America, white evangelicals, and religious people that are explicitly like conservative and want to like not just specifically conservative, but religious theocrats. They believe their religion should like be in charge of the government, and I feel like there's a bit of a battle going on the ground for people's minds that does get sort of wrapped up in a lot of like extensive like knowledge and trying to prove like okay, so here's an example instead of me just rambling. So like you remember back in the day when there was like a big thing on the conservative Christian like school argument was saying that we shouldn't teach evolution in schools because there's no proof of a missing link, like the missing link between man and ape. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so people go into this deep argument about the missing link and how like there is a missing link or blah blah blah, when like the whole foundation of is there a supernatural being watching over individual people is a much harder thing to substantiate, you know, like it's sort of like a Mott and Bailey type of deal, you know. So
it's really just like ignorance, or like ignorance of the science of evolution. Like they don't understand it, but then they're gonna claim that, you know, God created everything 6,000 years ago in 6 days. And
yeah,
oh man,
I feel like the argument shifted from that like specific thing to more like a pseudo intellectual, like I believe in science, I just believe in intelligent design. You know, I believe like there's no way that humans could exist without being created by something, because we have such a sophisticated circulatory system and we have eyes.
There's actually a really, I think I have, hold on, let me see this, try this. Wait a second. So Professor Dave explains recently. Yeah, I'll just show this because I took a snippet from his video. But I thought this was really interesting. I'm like way excited for this. So he just did the first part of this series. It's basically so it's titled "The Definitive Guide to Debunking Creationists," Part 1. And so like, but anyway, he came up with this kind of tier list, like types of creationism, and you have like the most unscientific, just conspiracy theory nut brains, like flat earth geocentrism, God did it, God did everything, and we live on a pizza, you know.
Yeah.
Down to number 8 there, deistic evolution. So like they accept all of science, they believe in evolution and all that, but they think that God did it, like God created the earth 4.5 billion years ago. Like everything's the same except.
Yeah, it's very funny because in Professor Dave debates, he's like constantly conceding the fact that I can't argue that there's no God before like all of scientific theory comes in, but you know, you guys are arguing off of complete like nonsense, you know. And it's funny because I think a problem though at that point is you would achieve being you would achieve not being anti-science, but at that point I think you're kind of like, you got to do some mental gymnastics to make Genesis happen like the Big Bang, to try to make any type of math work with 7 days of creation and any of that. And I think at that point you've got to be contradicting some things in the Bible, just or at least being very picky choosy when it comes to what you consider an allegory for space or a literal story that happened to a guy,
Yeah.
So, how is it? So since I wasn't raised religious, I personally haven't seeing religious upbringings was always a secondhand thing to me, and I think I've interacted with one Mormon, and he was kind of weird, and I interacted with one person who wasn't Mormon, but he was the son of a preacher, so he was kind of weird too. Just you could just tell that they were raised by very hyper religious people. How is that experience? I know you explain you mention abuse in your most recent video, so I don't want to press on anything that might be triggering or traumatic, but how is it being raised up in a religiously strict environment?
So it was. That is a good question. It's both. It's good and bad, and honestly, part of the reason I started WIZARDOLOGY, my new religion, I realized there are some good things about religion, like a sense of community, a regular, routine time people can gather together and just share positive experiences and things like that. Tax exemption. Okay.
Right.
There's some benefits to religion. But anyways, but then, so WIZARDOLOGY is an attempt to foster all the good parts about religion, but, do away with all the weird culty shit that tells you to not masturbate or this nonsense. But yeah, so growing up, I had my church group was also the scouting group, and we would do activities once a week. And so most of my friends were Mormon, just because of that association. We had that community, but then, yeah, also there is so much, and the abuse that I mentioned, it was more of an internal, mental battle, because you're not perfect, you're never gonna be perfect, and doing things that masturbation, where you're just making love to yourself, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's something that's natural for a kid going through those stages of life. But every time I even thought about it, I would feel so bad. And I felt shame and guilt for the, when you and I cover some of these things, some of these topics more in my blog, The Sacrilegious Sabbath. But it's just I talk about it more with being gay, and in the church you can't be gay. But people are just naturally born gay. Imagine if what, you got brown eyes, dark eyes, that's a sin. You were born with brown eyes. You should feel shame. You should pray to God for forgiveness. That fucks up with your head when you're doing something that's not bad, But you're told that if you do this, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. You're not going to be able to be with your family. And it's really traumatic.
So I guess a follow-up for that, because I think a lot of people, they see Mormonism and they think it's like a softer Christianity. Like they don't think it's like fire and brimstone, like evangelicism, or maybe as institutionally corrupt as Catholicism. But of course, like structured religions are all corrupt in their own ways. So how would that kind of stuff come out in a Mormon context versus like a Catholic or a Protestant? Like, because I know like a lot of Mormons, the way they interact with the public, it's almost like they're constantly trying to show like a contentedness to try to evangelize their faith a little bit. Like it's almost like look how happy I am, look at my happy family, you know, this is the happy religion. So where does the dark stuff come out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like those internal mind battles. And it's they put on this happy face because a really fucked up thing that they teach. Okay, so that like basically they correlate righteousness or like being a good person with being happy. If you're righteous, you're going to be happy. And so like times on my mission when I was just naturally depressed, I mean, like depression happens, like that's, you know, everyone has their ups and downs, but when you're taught that if you're righteous, you're happy, now you're sad. So you're thinking, oh, I must be a sinner, which makes you think you're even worse of a person, which makes you feel even more depressed. And it's just this cycle that like, but people will put on this facade of like, oh, I'm a happy, good Mormon because that means that you're righteous. Like if you're happy.
Okay.
So they're almost like faking it. A lot of them are, but in the first, I mean, the main thing about whether a religion is a cult or not is how strict they follow the bite model. They look to manipulate your behavior, thoughts, and emotions through information. And that is the Mormon Church to a T. You got to wear these certain clothes. You can't drink this. You can do that. Bunch of Anyway.
So with the missions, so did you have to do in-town mission work too? Like, did you have to like wear the white shirt and ride the bicycle?
Well, white shirt and tag, yeah, but I went to Bulgaria for 2 years.
Yeah, I saw you briefly mention that in the Kent Hovind debate that I saw like 5 minutes of. How was that experience?
It was a whole little different life that I lived, you know, in a whole different world. Like Bulgaria is just such a. When I first went there, like big time culture shock, and I got there at, late October, November. So it was just gray and foggy, and there was some influence from communism. So there's like a lot of just gray apartment buildings, and it just looked like gray. But after the winter, you know, then the spring came out, and it's a really beautiful place. And I wish I had just focused on the experience and trying to make friends and like have fun, but I was so focused on like getting those numbers, getting those converts, which turns out I got 0 baptisms. but yeah, there was a lot of depression and stress and like trying to live up to these crazy standards where you wake up at 6 a.m. every day and you work out and then you read your scriptures, and I have this schedule for it's changed a little bit since I've gone, but for me it was like your schedule from 6 a.m. to 10:30 or something at night, like everything's planned, whether you're proselyting or studying the scriptures or even scheduling your shit breaks.
Wow. Yeah, that just sounds like a I mean, just as oppressive of an institutional environment as many other churches. And I do find it interesting the philosophy behind like acting happy because your religion says that you should be happy if you're a good adherent of that religion. Sort of like a dog chasing its own tail type of situation. And it's very not funny, haha, but funny, like weird that a lot of like the reason why people probably see Protestant and Catholicism as more dour is because they're sort of like, if you're suffering, that's good. You're suffering for God, you know. You're the yeah. There's like there's like a whole the like aesthetic movement and just about like just a whole idea that like the pain that you feel is almost like a sign that you're adhering to your religion well. But obviously like regimenting people's lives and putting them under the control of people who are saying that they have like some type of connection to God is an unsafe environment for people, in my opinion, you know. So you said you left the church 7 years ago. Did you start your channel before you left the church? Because I saw that your first video is 8 years old. And so do you think that those are connected? Like your whole like expression of your like wizard stuff being like sort of like connected to your atheist awakening?
Kind of in a way. Well, so it's been a interesting process as far as like I did, you know, lose my faith, and that was a whole shift in my life. But also when I was in the church, they tell you they basically plan out your whole life, just like that missionary, you know, plan. It's like, you know, you go to church, you go on a mission, you get married, and you go to the temple, and you make babies, and you make sure that those babies follow that same routine, you know? And so my whole life was essentially planned out for me. And then when I left the religion, it just felt like, you know, that river emptying out into an ocean of possibilities. And, you know, I could do anything that I wanted to. No one was telling me what kind of life I had to live, so I could make my own decisions and my own choices. And it's been pretty overwhelming and daunting, but yeah, that's kind of helped with like creativity, I guess, with just being able to do whatever I want and
okay,
make my own decisions.
So like coming back to the the video that brought me to your channel, one thing I noticed about it was like it has like a real like pagan vibe going on. You know, there's the dancing and all that stuff. So how do you feel about paganism, like a non-deistic religion? Like that's sort of like what Wizardology is. But what about like pre-deistic religions, like animism and stuff like that? Do you think that stuff can like be as harmful, or do you think the idea of a deity is sort of what corrupts the whole bunch?
Yeah, maybe it's that element, because like when there's some deity that is essentially, you know, and when I say deity, it's always like, for the Mormonism, it's Joseph Smith. And he'd be like, oh, God's telling me that I should fuck you. And so it kind of encroaches on that whole authoritarianism, where what God says is the law, no matter what. Don't question it. Don't ever... But I mean, Wizardology. So me personally, I don't value faith of any kind. Like, I don't think it's a good thing. And I define faith as thinking that something is true when there's a lack of evidence. You know, you can just remain skeptical if you don't understand something. Like, what happens after we die? Well, you could create some kind of magical story, or you could just say, I don't know, I'm skeptical. I don't think anything happens. I think we just stop existing, but I don't really know. You can't know that. But yeah, the only thing that in Wizardology that we believe in is the self. Believe in you, and becoming that. It's that living your best life with a balance of physical, mental, emotional health. My dog's right here.
Oh, cute doggy. Hi, little doggy. Yeah, I think I would probably agree with that. I think it does have a lot of it is just like you sort of gestured at right there. It's authoritarian structures, you know, and when you have like everybody listens to one entity, you know, that's always, I think, in my opinion, that's a recipe for disaster, because all it takes is one immoral person to step into that position, and it all becomes a mess. And then it's atomized in a lot of organized religions, to where every church leader is that representative of God, and so they can abuse their ilk, not their churchgoers or whatever. What?
They can abuse their authority, or they're like.
I mean, like their church community. It's me forgetting words again. So, do you still brew wine?
The last batch I did was last summer, but I haven't. The thing is that when I first started brewing, well, when I just first left the church, I lived at this place, at that place with all those fruit trees, the pear tree, apricot trees, cherry trees, and so that was just kind of something to do with all the fruit, because like I wasn't gonna bottle it and stuff. But then I moved out of that house 3 years later, and after that, I haven't really had the resources to brew much.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I could go, but also like, yeah, we were in a super small apartment in New York for a bit, so that was not very conducive to the whole brewing process. But yeah, since we've moved into this place, there's plenty of room, but we're still kind of in the process of moving in. Just painted the front door today, finished that project, and did you see the video of this house?
No, I didn't watch that one. I watched the tree one, but
Yeah.
I didn't watch your house video. It looks like a good, cool house. Is that a mirror or is that another bookshelf?
This is a window, actually.
That's a window. Okay, that makes sense. I guess I was seeing car lights through it earlier. I probably should have thought about that. Yeah, I saw the tree video. I thought that shit was touching. I was like watching that. I was like, this is like touching my heart. It's like funny. It's lighthearted. And then I saw the wine, and I was all like, fuck, you go brew wine. And I really liked the turning water into wine thing you did. It's not really. It wasn't as much of a joke as just it just felt like I feel like your channel has a lot of these like really sweet moments where you're just being like a very earnest guy, and it's just like that's like the fun of the video is like even your I had time to watch that, and I had time to watch your Origins of Wade the Wizard video, and I was like laughing, and I was like really I liked how the audio was like really bad in between, like you would talk and it would be like but it was like it was just perfect. It was perfect. Like one thing I really like about small YouTube is like the super eccentric art you find like people doing as hobbies. And yeah, I just wanted to tell you I thought that video was cool. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about a couple news stories. I really like the wizard outfit, by the way. So I wanted to talk about this news story. This is from June 27th of this year. Oklahoma State Superintendent announces all schools must incorporate the Bible and the Ten Commandments in curriculums. All Oklahoma... Oh, fuck. Oh, that's not good. Showing my emails. All Oklahoma schools are required. All Oklahoma schools are required to incorporate the Bible and Ten Commandments in their curriculum, effective immediately. The state's chief education officer announced in a memorandum Thursday. At a state board of education meeting, the Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ryan Walters, said the Bible is one of the most foundational documents used for the Constitution and the birth of our country. It's crystal clear to us that in Oklahoma academic standards under Title 70 on multiple occasions, the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country, to have a complete understanding of Western civilization, to have an understanding of the basis of our legal system, Walter said. Every classroom in the state from grades 5 through 12 must have a Bible, and all teachers must teach from the Bible in the classroom, Walter said. The Bible is an indispensable historical and cultural touchstone, Walter said in the release. Without basic knowledge of it, Oklahoma students are unable to properly contextualize the foundation of our nation. This is not merely an educational directive, but a crucial step in ensuring our students grasp the core values and historical context of our country. So how do you feel about that argument? How do you feel about all this?
I mean, even just from like the headline, it's like there's so much already wrong with it, but their whole argument of like our understanding what our laws are founded on, I guess ironically, like thank God that we don't base our laws off the Bible, because there's some fucked up shit, and like, oh my goodness. And what was the other thing? There was that like our nation was founded on Christianity or whatever. It's like, oh my God, I hate that argument that the founding fathers were, like inspired by God or whatever, and like Christian specifically.
Yeah.
This weird.
That's ahistorical. They were just like weirdos. They were like Greek nerd weirdos, They didn't care about Christians.
Like, fairly secular. Like the Constitution is fully secular. And I mean, there's plenty of people just Google, like, was America founded? Well, you might have to do a little more searching beyond, is America founded on Christianity or not? But yeah. Like, they've gone into the history. I've done the research. It's just so stupid. And in school I studied Greek mythology, and like read the Odyssey, but it was in the fiction section of my school. Like if they're going to be teaching the Bible as fact and stuff, man, that is sad.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they had just started earlier this year. They had I wonder if this article mentions it. No, this doesn't mention it, at least from what I can see just scanning it. But earlier this year, they also passed a thing where they made it like mandatory in all Oklahoma schools to display the 10 Commandments, because American law is built on the 10 Commandments. What's your argument against that? What's your the 10 Commandments?
I was just kind of curious. Like I could ad lib, but I'm also just like curious because I wrote an article on the commandments. Here we go. Perfect. On my sacrilegious Sabbath. But yeah, it's not too long. If you don't mind, it's
perfect. This is great.
I'm also kind of curious because this was 2018 when I published this, so I don't really remember what it said myself. The 10 Commandments. I was surprised, as you might also be, to find out there are different versions of the 10 Commandments in the Bible. The current popularized version is just the cherry-picked revision of the supposedly most reasonable laws. This excludes keeping the feast of the unleavened bread, offering the firstborn ox or sheep to God, observing the festival of weeks. Thrice a year all men shall appear before God, and do not use leaven when sacrificing to God. Oh, and do not boil a baby goat in its mother's milk.
I like
Those
that
were
last
commandments
one.
that didn't make the cut list, I think it's worth mentioning the revisions of commandments as it diminishes the credibility of the rest, but mostly I want to focus on the fallibility of the popularized 10 Commandments. The first 3 are all about not offending God personally, because he's a jealous and narcissistic God. An omnipotent and omniscient God of all godliness, who has everything he could ever want in the kingdom of heaven, gets his feelings hurt when you say his name with a bit of sarcasm, like, oh my God. What a sensitive deity, right? It's also worth mentioning the fact that we are not provided a verifiable way of knowing exactly which of the thousands of gods which are the right God to worship. Some argue that being atheist and having no other gods before me is better than worshiping the wrong God. The fourth is about keeping the Sabbath day holy. However, it is debated whether the holy day is Saturday or Sunday and what exactly it means to keep it holy. I strongly agree with Christopher Hitchens, who says it is usually wise when promulgating eternal laws to be clear about what you mean. How can we be held accountable to expectations not clearly defined? The commandment to honor thy father and thy mother sets forth no conditional terms for the treatment of the child. There is nothing said about parents who are physically abuse. Hold on, let me see. Honor thy father and mother. Treatment of the child. Okay. There's nothing said about parents who are physically abusive, drug-addicted, immoral psychopaths. You damn sure better honor them. What about honor thy son and thy daughter? 6 through 9 are pretty obvious. Don't kill, commit adultery, steal, or lie. In fact, these commandments are so obvious and seemingly intrinsic to all Christian and non-Christian alike, I almost wonder why they need to be mentioned. Cultures or small tribes who have never even heard of the Bible know it's bad to murder. To assert that the Israelites were clueless to basic morals until Moses brought forth the correct revision of the commandments is an insult to human decency. If people can be moral without the Bible, why study it? In fact, people are often more moral than the teachings of the Bible. The last commandment, number 10, goes one step beyond dictating appropriate actions and condemns thought crimes. Because God knows our personal thoughts, we are stripped of the freedom of individual thinking. It's not enough to be a good person. We must think as a good person. The punishment of thought crimes is a form of totalitarianism. Nothing is private or hidden, and it encroaches on our inborn or God-given desires. You don't even have to act on your thoughts to be sufficiently convicted for hell. I guess there wasn't enough room on the tablets to include commandments condemning slavery, rape, pedophilia, discrimination, misogyny, polluting, tyranny, torture, war, racism, homophobia, xenophobia, deforestation, animal cruelty, molestation, bullying, addictive substances, and so on. You know, they didn't make the cut list. But for the love of God, don't say his precious name in vain. And then I linked a video to Christopher Hitchens' video, but some interesting points, man. Like, you think the 10 commandments are sufficient? We don't want to like add on a couple more.
Yeah, and that's I like the the foundational argument being this is the 10 commandments that we follow is a reflection of our laws, not the other way around. You know, that's why we don't have the goat thing in there, is because we choose to keep the mythology of the laws that we align with our religion, and we choose to keep that reflecting our current laws. You know, the reason why you don't boil the goat in milk back then is probably because it wasn't a good idea. But I'm sure nowadays it would probably work out fine because you would get the milk hot enough.
But like, even all of the Bible and even God himself is just a reflection of, because people, just normal people, were writing it, and they're like, hey, what would be cool if this happened, because I can totally relate to that. And like, why does God look like a human? Because it was like, oh man, that's like so egotistical to think that God looks just like you and he created you special in this whole universe. But be humble, be thou humble. You are just like God.
Right. Made in his image, very much the other way around. And it's the environment that the like modern version of these religions came from. Very bloody, oppressive environment. I mean, retreading stuff right there. So, do you think this is a reflection of this person or Oklahoma losing ground to religious theocrats, or do you think this is like a sort of like a doomed effort? Like, do you think this is going to get shot down by the courts?
Oh yeah. Well, to be honest, like, I was very surprised to hear that it popped up like that. I know they're going to get a lot of pushback from a lot of groups saying, like, this is unconstitutional. You can't do this. I mean, like, it's what's so crazy to me is that they can't, these Christian nationalists, super evangelical freaks that are trying to get Bibles in school, they can't comprehend for 1 second or empathize with someone and say, oh, I don't want my child being taught Islam in school.
Right.
That's as far as, just imagine your child being taught a God other than your own. And then that's like how we feel. I don't want you to get that stupid Bible out of the schools.
Well, and they almost create like a myth of that happening to them with like satanic panics. They create a myth of Satanists trying to secretly impose Satanism on people, especially through like the education system, especially with the old satanic panic. It's sort of coming back in its own way now, but the original satanic panic was exclusively centered around like school districts in California, and then it just like spread like a wildfire from there because parents were creating like conspiracy theories about educators sacrificing children to Satan and like forcing people to convert to Satanism, and that all the teachers were doing this. But the real people who are doing that in America are the Christians. They're going into schools and they're imposing their beliefs, and they're rejecting basic science, and even like a lot of them will go to school and get the degrees and still reject the science and everything that they've learned because they believe it's like liberal satanic lies, but it's like a projection, honestly, like a reflection of their own intentions, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be that article just recently was published, right?
Yeah, that was let's look at the date. Yeah, it was May, June, July, August, September. So 3 months ago. It doesn't look like it was stopped in the article, and it was updated. I
want to say I did hear about that when it came out, but yeah, there's going to be pushback, man. Like, I love the stuff that the Satanic Temple. Have you looked into those guys much? Or no, the Satanic Temple, right? Yeah, TST.
Yeah, like Levian Satanism, and basically it's just atheism, right? Self worship, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, you know, the Christians are the whole thing behind the satanic panic. They'll say that these atheists are worshiping Satan or they're eating babies and stuff. It's like, we don't even believe in Satan. Like, why would we worship? Why would we worship Satan, man? It's like such goofy. You're the one that believes in Satan.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a basic, like if we're talking logical contradictions, I'm not going to talk about the missing link if you're saying shit like that. It's really, really, really basic, like breaks with reality, and so yeah, I do think it's going to be challenged too, but I do question the current Supreme Court. But also, you know, who knows? Who knows? I think people, obviously things are definitely this kind of stuff is unpopular, even with a lot of religious people. Not all of them, not even a majority of them. I think a lot of modern rhetoric is almost I don't want to say too inclusive of religious people, but I think there's a very like I think a big break in reality between like secularists and religious people that will eventually come down. Like if religion exists, it's always going to be a conflict, and I don't think there's like any getting, like, you can't forcibly get rid of religion, but I think educating people is probably the best tool against that. I have one more story
on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Wait. Oh. Oops. What was that you just said? You were like more educated.
Yeah.
No, Dad. Share screen. This one. I don't know how to close. Man, this is my first time with this technology, just so you know.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good. I don't know how to end that activity either. You could join it and then exit, maybe that. Oh. No, it's still there. Oh, there it goes. It's gone.
Now it's too late to joke.
Yeah. I saw it. I think it's going to be a visual gag more than anything. There we go.
There it is. The more you know, the less you believe. No, well, but it's just interesting because we see there's a trend. You know, you look at the statistics throughout time. Well, people are getting more and more educated, more and more smart, and also religion is going down. You know, like I really see a trend towards there's going to be more atheism, or the more we learn about science. You know, once we realized the cause of thunder, we stopped believing in Zeus.
Right. No more thunder gods.
You would have thought that, like, once we understood evolution, that would kind of get rid of God of the Bible, but people are still holding on.
Yeah. A big, like, it's like, I don't know. I talked to Billy at July Life Coach about it a little bit, but it's almost like the Hegelian dialectic, you know. So there's like there's been the secular push And now there's the anti-intellectual pushback, where they're finding sort of like the biggest planks that prop up their modern version of their religions, and they're defending them at all costs. You know, they're not going to let religion. They're not going to let things like creationism like be completely like pushed out of the zeitgeist, because if it were to be, then they would lose all their power, you know. I'm trying to keep my fans off because it's been like 90 degrees for like the last like month and a half, and so like I have to run the fans all day, and I have to keep them off during the recording sessions, and it gets so hot in my bedroom. And I'm just so hot right now. And then I decide to wear like a tight collar.
Yeah, what's up with that, man? Look at all this airflow.
No, but that's the bit. I'm doing a bit. It's just I can't. It's just like, it's like if you were like, oh, it's really chilly in here, and put a blanket over your wizard outfit, you know, defeat the purpose.
I've got a whole bunch of, like, when I was a missionary, I had at one point I probably had more than 50 ties. And I got rid of a lot of them, but I still have some that I really love, and I just can't get rid of them. But maybe I need to send you a tie.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I got this one at Goodwill, and it has a little clip on the back. So it's not a clip on; it's like a wrap around the back tie. See, and it's like little. Yeah, it's basically a joke tie. I'm dressing like a professional. I'm not sure how much I actually am one. It's like a costume. It's like I went to Party City, except I went to Goodwill and got the pieces for a Party City outfit.
Look who you're talking to, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're kindred spirits. I mean, if anything's real, it's the bond we share. I want to talk about one more story before we get out of here. So I saved this one before. I want to talk a bit. I want to ask a bigger question, but I'm also kind of doing a bit. So bear with me here. So this is an article. It's preacher accused of enabling pedophile at creationist dino theme park. Ex-residents of the theme park where a child drowned in 2020 say a man convicted of playing strip poker with young boys brought a child to the park and shared a bed with him. Billy Summers had only known Kent Hovind for a couple of days when Hovind told him about the convicted child sex offender who sometimes visited Hovind's Christian amusement park. They were in Hovind's car picking up supplies for Dinosaur Adventureland, the creationist theme park that Hovind operates in a quiet pocket of Alabama. Hovind spoke about a longtime friend who had done time for battery and committing lewd acts on children under the age of 14. Hovind claimed the conviction was a sham, and that the friend was actually being persecuted for his work exposing the New World Order. But Summers was alarmed. So Jones was convicted of 3 charges of lewd acts on children for a strip poker game and an act of battery for nude spanking. He was acquitted on other charges, including 2 counts of lewd behavior towards children in the case of 2 other boys, and showing pornography to a minor. He didn't respond for a request for comment. When Billy Summers visited DAL as a guest in 2017, he learned of Hovind's close friendship with Jones after mentioning that he lived in Aiken, South Carolina. Hovind replied that he knew a man from the area who sometimes visited DAL. Unprompted, Summers said, Hovind began explaining that Jones was a convicted child sex offender, but that the charges were trumped up, and that Jones had merely been playing strip poker with children. Hovind said something like, but he, Jones, stopped at their underwear, so they did nothing wrong, Summers recalled. So, why do you think religious people are so quick to excuse pedophilia, like, and to actually like run circles and defense for pedophiles that they, like, are around them, you know? Because this happens a lot in the Catholic Church too. This is sort of a microcosm with one specific religious guy, but this is pretty common in the church, the Catholic Church especially. And I mean, the Pope got in a little bit of hot water because he basically keeps saying that it's a it's a problem with gay people in the church, but he doesn't use the word gay people. He uses like the Italian slur for gay people. So it's like faggoccini or something. Yeah, and so. He keeps saying that, but either way, like, what do you think is going on there? Because I mean, evil is right in front of you when you have a pedophile, right? But it's like every time there's a pedophile in the church, there's a way to excuse it or to move them on.
Yeah, man, could you imagine? I'm thinking of like the story in the Bible where, you know, the Pharisees bring forward the woman, the adulterer, and they say, Jesus, this woman has committed adultery. What should we do with her? The law says that we're supposed to stone her to death. And then he's like, whoever's without sin. Oh, maybe, you know what? I think the Pharisees were a bunch of pedophiles. Because he's like, though, if you haven't sinned, throw the first stone. And no one threw a stone. They all backed off because they were guilty. I don't know, man. Dude, it's in the Mormon church. There was this whole thing where, like, I was still back living in Utah and I went to this protest, but the official church policy was that an adult man could be alone in a room with a child as young as 8 years old and ask them like sexual questions behind closed doors. And that has led to a whole bunch of like incidences that they try and cover up and stuff. But the only thing that this like whole protest movement, it was called Protect Every Child. But they just wanted the church to have 2 adults in the room, you know, so that there can be like some, what do you fucking call it? Like, or have the parent in the room, you know?
Yeah, like supervision.
Like require that to have some kind of supervision or accountability, man. But they wouldn't even go for it. They finally settled on like, oh yeah, we'll maybe leave the door cracked open.
What?
No, it was something like if the child requests to have their parent come in, then that's okay. But like they still can do it. I don't know, man. I don't know what the laws are on that.
Yeah, but they didn't want 2 people in the room. They were like, no, that's not how we do things.
They're like, oh, these interviews, these bishop interviews where the child meets with this clergyman and asks him if he's masturbated or whatnot. Like, I don't know.
They're too personal.
Think that's like good for the children. They're like they're learning something. They're getting closer to God.
They're like, hey, that moment between that little boy and that grown man is much too personal for another grown man to be watching. We cannot allow that. It violates the sanctity of
and
their mentorship. So do you think it's like, I don't know, do you think there's like a secret cabal that's like okay, hear me out. In every church there's just a bunch of guys who are like, this is the best way we can fuck kids. Nobody can mess this up for us.
Don't tell if I don't tell. I got your back.
Yeah, we will make sure they don't change the one guy rule. Or do you think there's like a sociological explanation that isn't? That's just
no. I think they. I mean, yeah. There's maybe some. I don't know. That's a weird question. Like, yeah, there's pedophile people, but the people making the rules, I think they were just trying to keep that meeting private with the spiritual leader, because like that's the secret thing. Everything in the church is like, so like when you go to the temple, not just church, but the super church, those big iconic buildings,
Okay.
They're not really iconic, but if you Google like Salt Lake City, Utah temple,
they're big.
There's like these big castles, but now they have this like off-brand, these tiny temples. There's like still legit temples, but they're just smaller, cheaper.
Uh-huh.
But they spend millions of dollars on these temples, and you go in there, and rule number one, you don't tell anybody about what goes on in the temple, or you will promise to slit your throat or pluck out your heart or disembowel yourself. Oh God, oh God, oh God. And that, like, it's the cultiest, weirdest shit. And I can't believe that Mormonism is still a thriving church.
Yeah, it's the newest religion.
Millions of members, man. But man, I love the pushback too of like the Book of Mormon musical and like stuff that South Park has done. Some of the pushback to how stupid Mormonism is just beautiful and brilliant.
Yeah, I think they do a good ribbing of religions every time they do it. And I mean, yeah. I think for a lot of people, just having that stuff pointed out for them is like enough for sort of a lot of that to crumble down. But like, a lot of people find Joseph Smith compelling. I feel like a lot of people nowadays would find a new Joseph Smith compelling, if he was just like, hey, I talked to God. I mean, right. Yeah. I'm going to let you do a big plug for that too. It
could be the fastest growing religion. It's going to be totally awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess we're getting to that time. So what is Wizardology?
So it's like a kind of a secular atheist organization like the Satanic Temple or Secular Coalition. Also kind of like the Flying Spaghetti Monster Church, where it's just a satire of religion. Right? It's just poking fun at other religions and how stupid they are, and like we wear silly hats and have secret passwords and secret handshakes but anyway, it's a
okay. So I'll let you continue, but 1 second.
Yeah.
If you join, do you get a hat, or do you have to make them yourself?
Well, man, no, you got to make it. That's part of the thing is like you got to put your soul into that hat. When you make your own hat,
okay,
make it just like you want it. Anyway, no, but there's really no requirements. So the religion's just poking fun at religion, and like I kind of mentioned before, it's all the good things about religion, but none of the weird culty shit, like all the shame and guilt and sinning and the only thing we believe in the self. We believe in you, and you achieve your perfect balance with your mental, physical, and emotional well-being, living your best life. But yeah, like good things about religion. We're meeting every second Sunday on the Wizard Show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's gonna be interesting. And I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along as well. This is like a personal journey from myself, and I'm like the sculptor. I don't know what the end result's going to be. I'm like kind of discovering it as I chip away a piece, and I'm like, oh, I like that, and see what it becomes.
Like any good sculptor.
Yeah.
So are you gonna have like a Wizardology Discord?
Maybe, I don't know. This is like I logged on to Discord, I think today, or maybe yesterday. Never even heard of it before. Maybe that dates me a little bit, but
no.
I don't know. I've never been very technical.
It's the newest. It's the newest. Newest frontier is the digital world.
Well, yeah, digital world, but I mean, I've been doing my live streams on StreamYard. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of so like I have Instagram. I've dropped my Facebook. I just have Instagram and YouTube, and I don't care for TikTok or whatever. I don't know. I just don't really try much other different social media stuff, and I just kind of do my own thing.
Is your podcast like? What's the regularity on your podcast? The Wizard Show podcast.
I haven't done a podcast.
What was the show you're doing with guests?
Oh, the Wizard Show.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one I
guess I just use as a general term is what I'm. Oh.
Right. No, that I remember what you're. Yeah, we did like 3, kind of almost 4 episodes of that, and that was gonna be. That was before my idea of Wizardology, and really it's the Wizard Show, which was like a regular. It was a live show where I. Kind of had a structure, but it was mostly just unscripted. And yeah, there's a lot of similarities with the Wizard Show, but then I kind of had this idea to pose it as a religion, as like a satirical religion, and that's when it all kind of came together, and I got excited and spent way too long designing and constructing this. And it's washed out.
Yeah,
you can't even see.
You're gonna have to like use more paint. You know what I used to do when I was a teenager is I would paint light bulbs with nail polish. So maybe another layer with some nail polish will block out some of that light.
Yeah, I do have some other ideas, but maybe I can.
It might don't listen to me if you have a different idea, because mine is like a backup plan. Right. So what? Real quick. So I'm gonna end the show, the recording part, and then I'll talk to you for a second afterwards. But plug your channel name. Where can people find you?
My Instagram is Wade the Wizard. My YouTube channel is The Wizard Show. And yeah, we live stream new religion. Wizardology is the sign. Make a W.
Yeah, I see it.
And yeah.
Oh yeah, with the hat. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. Wizardology. Every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's it, man.
Awesome. Well, that's the show.
Random other videos, but
cool. And then there's like a music that's gonna play.